Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter Show with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe as we get ready, as we're heading into New Year's weekend, changing in from 2022 to 2023, and we're going into the last 2 weeks of the football season with a number of playoff spots open, but some that are settled on. We're starting to see how it's going to look. Nate, first of all, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. How was your Christmas?
It was great. It was great. We got to get down to the beach house for a little bit. Got to relax a tiny bit, but pretty active. Whenever my family gets together, there's going to be a list of activities. So I may be more tired now than I was before the holiday, but we had a great time and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was with my family and my nephews and niece and all their kids. So yeah, it was a kiddie. But that's what Christmas was supposed to be about. I mean, my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, which is all about food and football. But Christmas is about kids and watching them unwrap their gifts and having a good time. So that's what you're supposed to be doing. So, anyways, everybody, anybody who is up north, I hope you survived the snow. I hope everybody, because it was kind of a bad week of, especially for the travelers getting to and from wherever they're going. Hope that straightens out this week for everybody. And they can enjoy their New Year's, even if their Christmas was kind of effed up, if it would have had a better way to say. And speaking of effed up things, let's start right out with the Las Vegas Raiders and what they announced this week. Shocking is a small way of putting it, I'd say, because you can't tell me that Stidham is a better choice than Carr at any point in his career. And why you would, I understand they're probably not going anywhere, but what does Josh McDaniel have to learn about Jarrett Stidham in the last 2 weeks?
I don't know. I'm pretty confused by all of this. You would think that at 6-9, you would want to end the season on a high note and finish strong. And try and get, there's this whole year that something's been off. I don't know if it's, the system that McDaniels has been trying to, introduce. I don't know what it is, but something hasn't been right. And why not try and get that going instead of benching him and starting Jarrett Stidham? It's like he wanted, the press conference was laughable as me and you talked about off air. He was like, well, I want to see what we've got in some of the younger guys. Well, Jarrett Stidham's not that young. He's been in the league for a long time. He got a shot to start with the Patriots the year that Cam Newton was the starter. Every time he was on the field, it didn't really go well. I don't think he ever was actually the starter, but he got to play quite a bit and looked bad doing it. So I don't really understand that. And then, he says, I talked to Derek and Derek's on board with this. And then about an hour after the press conference, an article comes out that Derek's stepping away from the team. And it's like, if Derek's on board with this and Derek is fully behind these young guys and wants to help them, why is he leaving the team? Shouldn't he be there on the sideline helping, the play calls come in and helping the guy when he comes to the sideline? Is just the whole press conference was utter BS and makes no sense. And, I guess they're going to stick with McDaniels, but you know what? If they lose these next 2 games and finish the season 6-11, who's to say his job is safe? I mean, maybe it is, but stranger things have happened as far as, firing a guy after 1 year.
And, the thing is, their problem, really the biggest problem they've had all year is not getting a lead. It's holding a lead.
Right.
And, I mean, you have one of the best running backs in football. You have one of the best wide receivers. You want to keep that intact. And Derek Carr he's going to Pro Bowls. He's not a bad quarterback. He
led him to the playoffs last year. So,
Yeah.
He's forgotten how to play. Like, I don't understand why everything. Now, let's be honest, against the Steelers, it didn't look good. He struggled. He threw 3 interceptions. It was not a good game for him. But overall, this season, he's thrown for over 3,500 yards with 2 games to go. He's got 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. It hasn't been his best year, but he's completed almost 61% of his passes. Is he the biggest problem on this team? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And the thing is, like, okay, 24-14 is not great, but look at what's happened in Aaron Rodgers this year. Aaron
Right.
Rodgers has thrown more interceptions? He's thrown as many interceptions now as he has in the last 3 years combined. I mean, it happens sometimes, especially when the wheels come off the wagon, shall we say. And all of a sudden now you lose a lead. Now you get a pass to get back. I mean, things happen. I mean, I just don't put it this way. Jarrett Stidham, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he's not going to be he's not going to be your starting quarterback next year. If he is your starting quarterback next year, Josh, you're going home to New England faster than you think.
He's not going to be. He's not going to be.
No, he's not. So you don't need to know about him. It would be the thing I would want to be looking at right now is keeping Devontae Adams engaged. Also, the running back has a chance to lead the league in rushing. What do you think he's going to go up against the last 2 weeks? Is he playing?
I believe he's playing. I mean, I would think so.
Okay, so how many people are going to be in the box when he tries to run over the next 2 weeks with Jarrett Stidham as a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to get a lot of running room because they know that this guy can't throw it. And let's be honest, I think that what this really says to me and what I got out of all of this is that Derek Carr's done in Las Vegas. I mean, that's the only thing that I can, when trying to analyze this and when trying to, get past the smoke screens and trying to figure out what the hell is really going on here. What this tells me is he's gone. He's not playing anymore this year. They're going to try one of the other guys on the roster. He's stepping away. This just signals to me that they're going to trade him or cut him after this year. I mean, that's what this tells me. I don't know if he just doesn't get along with McDaniels. I don't know if he doesn't like the system. I don't know if McDaniels doesn't like him. I don't know if it's all three. But I think his time in Las Vegas is over.
Well, this is another indictment of Mark Davis. You go out and you have Derek Carr there. You go out to get a coach. One of the things you should be saying is when he comes to town is, can you work with my quarterback?
Yeah.
I have a quarterback I would say Derek Carr's in the top half of the quarterbacks in the NFL. He'll have some good weeks and some bad weeks. I'd take him on the Giants, and then you go out and get Devontae Adams and
his college teammate.
Right. And now you're going to blow the whole thing up now. What they should have done was when Josh McDaniel came to town, and everybody talks about doing this always, when you hire the new coach, you got to get a new quarterback to go along with him. So what you do is they should have traded Derek Carr for some draft choices and drafted a quarterback.
I agree. I mean, if you were going to do this, that's what you should have done. And let's be honest. I mean, they've lost, 3 or 4 games where they've had a 17-point lead or more. I mean, their issues to me seem to rest, more on the defensive side of the football. I mean, Max Crosby's been their one mainstay on defense all year long. Chandler Jones, has shown up at times, but hasn't really produced the way that he did last year. The defensive scheme, Graham did a pretty good job in New York, but his defense has looked lost at times, especially at crunch time for the Raiders.
Yeah, Graham was all right. He wasn't. Spagnuolo was the better defensive coordinator with the Giants. Graham took over. He did all right, but then again, he didn't have all the players that Spagnuolo had, and it turned out. But right now, I mean, if you look at Las Vegas, they got Kansas City still there. The Chargers are in the playoffs now. They're just lucky that Denver's in worse shape. And Nathaniel Hackett, we should have done an over-under on how long he would last early in the year because, my God, that was coming. And did you watch the game when against the Rams?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen a team self-destructing like this in NFL where they're fighting with each other and everything else that's going on the sidelines.
And then fighting the other team in the tunnel. And, it's like you go out, you hire this guy. What I want to know is, did Russ like play bad on purpose because they really hired Hackett to try and get Aaron Rodgers. And then when that didn't work, they went out and traded for Russ. And then maybe Russ was mad that he wasn't the first choice. I mean, I have no idea, but let's just be honest. This has been a disaster all year long. And the thing is that they can't get rid of Russ. Okay. Right. They've invested $250 plus million in Russ, and they can't get out from under him at least for 2 more years. So it was either Hackett or Russ who was going to be, gone. And, I knew it wasn't going to be Russ. So I called this when I was watching the game, and I started to see it get out of hand. I'm like, he's probably not going to make it to next Monday. And he didn't. And you know what? I feel bad for him because you can't say that, you can't say, hey, we're going to hire you. You're going to be the head coach, and then give the guy no power. Because he didn't have any power. He wasn't able to tell Russ what to do. He just kind of was the coach in title only. And he basically, was over there, with doing a puppet show without any control over the puppets. And I feel bad for him, honestly. I mean, I don't think he did necessarily a great job, but I think he had at least one, maybe both of his hands tied behind his back, and I kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah, but his game, the thing is, he looked like he was totally unprepared early in the year. I can't remember the exact incidents, but you and I talked about it a few times. We were like, game management, time management, some of the stuff he's doing, you were like, huh?
Yeah.
Why?
No. I mean, he definitely struggled, especially at the beginning of the season with clock management, with game, in-game management. But that's kind of to be expected. What did you think? It was his first time ever as a head coach. You thought he was just going to come out and kill it with that kind of stuff. I mean, the whole thing was they were expected to, compete in the West, and they, had a decent defense last year. The defense played still pretty good this year, but he was brought in to kind of inject some fuel into this offense along with Russ. And let's just be honest, man, Russ is garbage. He's been garbage all year long. He's thrown for 3,000 yards. He's got 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He's been sacked 50 times. He's horrible. And
the best meme after last weekend was when he threw his 12th touchdown pass. They said now he finally has as many touchdown passes as bathrooms in his mansion.
I saw that. Well, it's just a straight up fact. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff leaking out about Russ from other people, former teammates, other people in the league, that Russ cares more about his outfits that he wears to the game than he does about playing football. And he apparently doesn't give out his phone number to his teammates. They have to contact his agent in order to get a hold of him. And it's just kind of like, do you want to be a celebrity or do you want to be a football player? And, I can tell you this, it makes a lot of sense, what the Seahawks did. And, let's be honest, Pete Carroll and Schneider, they've known what they've been doing for years up there in Seattle. That's why they win almost every season. And it didn't surprise me kind of seeing Russ struggle once he got out of Seattle, because he got kind of propped up, the Legion of Boom, Pete Carroll, all the different, coordinators that they had up there that did a good job, Marshawn Lynch around him, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. I mean, there's some good players up there, and there has been for quite some time.
Yeah, exactly, man. And we saw it. Seattle was better this year than they were last year, and with Geno Smith. I mean, and they may or may not make the playoffs. They're still in the hunt. They're on the bubble, and we'll see what happens there. And we'll take it from there with that. I'm not sure, but definitely this experiment in Denver is not working out. And just like the Arizona quarterback contract, this could cripple this place for next 5 to 10 years, depending on what they can do.
I mean, it's who wants this job? I mean, do you want to come in there?
No, everybody saying Sean Payton. I'm like, no. Sean Payton's good, but I mean, to go in there and if it did go Sean Payton, one of the rumors out there was that he wants Vic Fangio to be his defensive coordinator. I don't see that happening. But
no, Sean Payton can pick his job. Okay.
Yeah.
He's got the ability to go and choose the job he wants. I mean, he was the coach of the Saints. He didn't get fired. He quit because he, wanted some time off. He didn't like a lot of the things that were going on around him. And so he stepped away. Okay. And now he's the name mentioned around every coaching position that's open in the NFL. He's got his pick of the litter. And why would he want to inherit this mess that is the Denver Broncos? And my answer is he doesn't want to, and he won't. There's no way that he takes over the head coaching job in Denver. I mean, worst case scenario, he waits till next year.
Well, the one thing I will say about Sean Payton is don't be like John Gruden and wait 10 or 12 years to get back into the game. Things change. You lose your relevancy with the modern player. So don't wait. If you're going to get it back in, get back in. Either do that or do what Madden and Cowher did and said, I'm done, and walk away. Put it in the rearview mirror. We might as well talk about it. I mean, Arizona would be another one of the places that I could see Sean Payton going to.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a possibility, but I don't know if he wants. I mean, they're locked into Kyler Murray, and do you think he wants to go down there and try and work with Kyler Murray? I mean, let's be honest. What have we heard about Kyler Murray? He's not really, a guy that likes to, be the first one in, the last one out. He wants to play Call of Duty more than he wants to read his playbook. He yells at the coach on the sidelines. He's 5'9", maybe 190 pounds. By the end of the year, he's beat the crap out of. I don't think he wants anything to do with that either. So I think those are two options that he probably looks at and be like, no, thanks.
I don't know. I think he might, and it might be wrong in his mind, but I think, he's already worked with an undersized quarterback and won a Super Bowl. More of a drop back quarterback. But I mean, I watched this guy as an offensive coordinator make Kerry Collins into a serviceable NFL style quarterback. You know what I mean? I've seen him do it in a few different places, and I wouldn't put it past him. But the job isn't even open yet, so why speculate on it? Let's talk about tonight's game, which is the Dallas Cowboys and the Titans. The Titans, who are just reeling and in a mess. Tannehill's gone for the year. Josh Dobbs, he was on the Detroit Lions or the Cleveland Browns taxi squad?
Well, he was on the Cleveland Browns until they activated Deshaun Watson. When he became active, when Deshaun Watson did, Josh Dobbs was relegated to the practice squad. He got picked up by the Lions and put on their practice squad. And then the Titans picked him up on December 21st. So he's been on the Titans since the 21st. And let's be honest, it hasn't looked good any time that Malik Willis has been in there. He doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. He doesn't look like he's ready to play. And why not go with a guy that's been in the league, for 6 years and has looked good in the preseason? I mean, I don't know what he's going to look like tonight, but I certainly don't have a problem with them going with him over Malik Willis.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was never a Malik Willis believer myself. I looked at his stats at Liberty, and yes, he put up some gaudy stats against some bad teams, but he goes up against a team like Mississippi, and he's Mr. Interception. So I mean, it's that mixed bag. I don't like guys coming from too big of programs, but I also don't like guys coming from too small a program. And he kind of fits towards the more small program for me. So I think you got to do this. But I mean, when you look at this game tonight, this is playoffs for the Titans. And as you and I spoke before coming on the air, they're sitting people.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I'm very confused by this. I mean, I get the playoff structure and the fact that they could still technically get in if they lost tonight and then they beat the Jaguars next week. I guess they would still get into the playoffs based on the tiebreaker. But let's be, I liked what you said. They need a win. I mean, what you think they're going to get trounced tonight and lose by 30, and then they're going to be on top of their game next week and go and beat a hot Jacksonville team that's been one of the hottest teams in the league? I mean, let's be honest, they've lost 5 in a row. Bengals, Eagles, Jaguars, team that they're going to play next week. They lost 36-22, at home. So now they're going to go down to Jacksonville and beat them. They lost to the Texans last week. They lost to the Chargers, and it hasn't just been the quarterback position. The defense hasn't been able to get off the field on third down. They've struggled stopping the run. They've struggled in pass protection. And then, instead of trying to get right and win a football game, they've got Derrick Henry inactive. They've got Nicholas Petit-Free. Their starting tackles inactive. Danico Autry is inactive. Jeffrey Simmons is inactive. Amani Hooker is inactive. I mean, pretty much everybody on the team besides Josh Dobbs, who's been on the team for a week and a half, everybody else is inactive, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
Josh Dobbs got to be feeling really good about himself right about now.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Give me my first ever start and then sit
everybody
starter.
Yeah, give me all the JV. And when you read off the thing that came to my mind when you're reading off the teams they've lost to, outside of the Texans, all of them are either in the playoffs or in the hunt for the playoffs. So even if you get into the playoffs and these teams are beating the crap out of you, how far do you think you could go in the playoffs if you don't start establishing something? Get Derrick Henry on, get something going in the right direction.
No, that's my point. I mean, even if you sneak into the playoffs, does this look like a team that's going to, win a couple of games and get deep into the tournament? No. And same thing with Tampa. I mean, Tampa, technically, if they beat Carolina this week, they're in. But what leads you to believe that Tampa's going to make a deep run when they can barely beat the Arizona Cardinals, who have Trace McSorley out there at quarterback? I mean, they had no business winning that game. There's been about 3 games out of the last 6 that Tampa's pulled out at the end that they've had no business winning. They've gotten pushed around for almost 4 quarters, and then, they've scored in the last 2 drives of the game to win it.
Yeah, I think, if you looked at it, I mean, I think in a lot of cases, either the defense plays just well enough to keep them in the game so Brady can have his 3 minutes of glory, because that's basically what he's come down to now. He's a guy that needs the game to be handed to him. Brady, all we need is one drive. Can you get it for us? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, cool. Because the rest of the game, you've been mediocre at best. Brady should have retired. Should have stayed retired. Should go on away. I don't know. And what I was about to bring up about, going back to the Tennessee, and me as a Giant fan, I have a mixed bag feeling about the Giants making the playoffs. I want them to make the playoffs just because it'd be nice to have another week to root for them. But they're not going anywhere. They don't have a team that's good enough to go deep. They don't. There's too many holes. So you look at this team, whether it be Tampa or whether it be the Titans now. Even if you make the playoffs, really, how many weeks are you going to go?
Yeah, I mean, there's several teams that I feel that way about, and another team that I'd like to talk about for a minute is also, a team that's right on the bubble, and that's the Miami Dolphins. I mean, This is the team that last week, what the hell was going on? I mean,
Tua played one of the worst quarters of football I've ever seen a quarterback play.
I mean, he just looked horrible out there and, started off okay and then just completely fell off the map and threw 3 of the worst interceptions I've seen in professional football in the last couple of years. And they just they outgained the Packers in rushing. They outgained the Packers in receiving. The defense looked better. But somehow the Packers figured out a way to win, basically because Tua kept throwing it to the other team. And, then they come out this week and announce that, he had symptoms of a concussion, and they were like, oh yeah, well, we're just going to put him in the protocol, but we don't think he really had one. He just had symptoms. So, we have to do this based on the protocols that are in place. And so they're like, all right, well, he should be back and he'll be starting. Then they come out yesterday and announced that no, he did have a concussion and he's out this week. And I'm like, you know what? He may be out forever. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but 3 concussions in 1 year, and I don't know if you saw the play where they're saying that the concussion occurred, but he tapped the ground.
Right.
And if he's going to get concussions when his head, barely grazes the turf, what's going to happen when he takes a big shot from somebody? I got a strong feeling that not only may his time in Miami be over, I've got a feeling he may be done.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I mean, and at this point, he's got to think about himself. 3 concussions in a year. I mean, you're not going to be normal later on in your life with that. You can't. Your brain is getting affected. You can't.
Well, and 2 of the worst ones that I've ever seen, where a guy he got up and fell back down, and then the second one where he was on the ground and was convulsing. That was a scary moment for anybody who cares, who really actually cares about these guys. That was a scary moment. And I love this game. You know me, I love football.
Oh, yeah.
The game of football more than anything, but it's not worth I don't love it more than these kids' lives. And I don't love it more than, family and your livelihood first. And this kid's got to start thinking about, his life after football now.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of things going for him where he doesn't have to be a player. If he, coaching, being in the booth, whatever. He seems to have a great personality. He's somebody connections from Alabama University. Money is not going to be a problem for him the rest of his life. His problem is he's got to stay upright and healthy, and that's something he should be considering right now more than anything else. Let's take a look at the playoff picture.
Yeah,
as it stands right now.
Can we talk about one more team that's also on the bubble? And it's another team that also is got a little bit of a quarterback carousel going on as well. And
Washington?
That's one. We can talk about them too. But I was wanting to hit on the other New York team, the Jets. What a disaster. I mean, Mike White's ruled out. They have to go back to Zach Wilson, which me and you talked about before. I didn't understand why they didn't just put Joe Flacco out there. They moved the kid from number 1 to number 3, and then Mike White goes from number 2 to number 1, and they move Flacco to 2, and then all of a sudden he goes from 3 to 1. I'm so confused about the decision making of Robert Saleh, and I'm wondering who is making the decisions. I don't think it's the coach. I don't
either. I think it's Joe Douglas. I think Joe Douglas has to prove why he drafted him number 2, why he didn't, go wait and get Justin Fields. Why didn't he go get Justin Fields? Why didn't he get Mac Jones? Why didn't he get, he couldn't get Trevor Lawrence anymore, but he picked probably the 6th option instead of the 2nd or 3rd option in the draft. And this is the thing that I think we talked about 3 weeks ago. The coach's job is not to put a gold jacket on a quarterback. The coach's job is to win games. You're supposed to win games. I understand the quarterback position is the most important position, but Steve Young sat behind Joe Montana for a lot of time. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre. I've seen, questionable decisions. I've been watching football for about 40 years now, and I've seen so many times when the coach says, I'm going with the guy that can win me games. And that I don't care. If you don't like it, I'll make the decision I have to make.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, the other night, it was hard to watch. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the Jets couldn't get a first down. They couldn't even, the only points they got were, when the interception, it wasn't an interception, it was a fumble that the Jets got on the 12-yard line, a strip sack fumble recovery. And the Jets get the ball on the 12-yard line. They go backwards and have to kick a field goal. And then that was the only points they got all night. And they, obviously it was getting worse as it went along. It was hard to watch, honestly. So then they sit Zach Wilson and take him out, and they put in Chris Streveler.
Yeah, great option quarterback.
I've got to be honest. I have watched football myself for almost 40 years, and I've never heard of Chris Streveler in my life. but he does come out and starts running the option. And I'm like, what the hell? This is our answer to try and win this game is we're going to take out our number 2 pick in the NFL draft, and we're going to put South Dakota's own Chris Strivler out there to run the read option. Now, he did get more yards in 2 drives, or in 1 drive, excuse me, than Zach Wilson got the entire game. But it was just apparent that he was in way over his head as well. Why didn't they put Joe Flacco in there? Why was the alternative when they're still in the playoff hunt to throw Chris Strevler out there? This is just, to me, one of the most baffling decisions that I've seen in professional football in a long time.
Well, I don't want to just be I want Salah to be good. I like the guy. I want him to be good. I hope it's because Joe Douglas is making him use Zach Wilson that he has to make these decisions. But so now he can get an excuse for liking Salah. But yeah, he does look over his head, and they talk around town up this way. Is what happened to the Jet defense? I think 2 things happen to the Jet defense. They're tired, and they're discouraged because they fight all night, and it's got to be discouraging when you're holding good teams and keeping the team in games, and all of a sudden you get off the field, 2 minutes later you're back on. Get off the field, a minute and a half later you're back on. Get off the field, and you're right where you left the ball.
Well, you get a strip sack, fumble, take it away from the team you're playing against. You hand it to your own offense. Do they go and punch it in? No, they go backwards and make your kicker come out and have to kick a long field goal when you hand them the ball in the 12. I agree with that. I mean, they're probably just beside themselves. There's probably a big split in the locker room with these guys going, what the hell are you guys doing? I mean, I'd be upset with the front office. I'd be upset with the coaching staff. I'd be upset with the quarterbacks themselves. If I was a defensive player on this team, I'd be like, what in the hell is going on? And, put Joe Flacco back in. I mean, the offense ran fairly smoothly when 52-year-old Joe Flacco was playing earlier in the year. I mean, I just don't understand any of this.
Yeah, they're kind of the whole problem is with the Jets. If you listen up here, because New York media is just like none other, and unfortunately there'll be some heads rolling after this year. Joe Douglas is fine. You might lose the offensive coordinator. For sure, Zach Wilson's got to be getting out. He can't play again. He cannot. If he comes back in, no matter what he does, he's going to get booed. He's got to be perfect.
He's done in New York. I mean, there's no chance that he plays again this year. And honestly, I don't think he plays again next year. I think he's done. I don't know if after the season they cut him. I don't know if they try and trade him. I was hearing yesterday on NFL radio, they were discussing, potential trades for him. Who the hell would trade for that guy? I mean, I don't give a crap if he was the number 1 pick in the draft overall. What have you seen from this kid at all that would lead you to want to give up any type of capital for him to be on your team?
Well, I don't see anybody trading for him. I see him getting cut. But I do see him becoming the next Josh Rosen. Somebody you hear about, just signed from a taxi squad somewhere, and he's going to be dressing as the second quarterback this week because the other 2 quarterbacks are injured. I see that as his future. I don't see his future as doing anything else. So,
which leads me to the next question, which is, why in the hell can they not draft a quarterback up there? I mean, think about the guys they've passed on to take Mark Sanchez, who honestly didn't really even get a fair shake and was the last guy that could even win games. But then they draft, Sam Darnold. Then they draft Zach Wilson and all the guys that they passed on. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Zach Wilson, he didn't really impress me in college. Sam Darnold led college football in turnovers. Why would you take these 2 guys in the top 3 and think they were going to come in and do something for your team when they weren't even that good in college football? I just don't get it.
Well, I think the Jets, first of all, and this is why I'm hoping they've made the right choice in Robert Saleh, and he's he's had a tough start on this, but I think, with the right coaches around him, I don't know if LaFleur is going to be his offensive coordinator, but in the right situation, I think he can flourish. Before that, they made bad coaching choices. Rex Ryan was a decent defensive coordinator, but the worst thing about Rex Ryan is he was more worried about his defense than developing Mark Sanchez and putting an offensive team around Mark Sanchez. I remember one game against Miami where they benched their star wide receiver, and he didn't even really. When they asked him about it after the game, he didn't even know it happened. And then you bring in Todd Bowles, and we're looking at what Todd Bowles is doing with Tom Brady down in Tampa. I mean, obviously, a lot of it has to do with injuries. Tom Brady is not the quarterback he was 2 years ago, and definitely not the quarterback he was a decade ago. But still, Todd Bowles they're hanging on, but kind of in spite of him, I would say. And then you had, what's his name, Gaze, who was a terrible coach. So I say with the Jets is they've got to get the coaching thing right and then make the right pick with a quarterback. And they've got to get a veteran. That's where they should be kicking the tires on Derek Carr right now. Garoppolo, bring in a veteran because this defense is ready to compete. This offense isn't too far off if they've got the right quarterback.
Yeah, if you can get Breece Hall back healthy, you get Michael Carter and Breece Hall back there in the backfield. You develop some of these young wide receivers to go along with Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and all the CJ Uzama. I mean, there's talent on this team, but at this point, starting over and drafting a guy again, I just don't see the point in that. And
No.
yeah, the coaches have been bad, but I mean, honestly, I don't care if you had Vince Lombardi. Sam Darnold wasn't going to win you a Super Bowl. I mean, that guy was just, a turnover machine waiting to happen. Now, look what he's doing in Carolina. Is he the reason that they're winning games? I don't think so.
No,
But at least they do have a coach that knows what Sam is, and he's trying to get the most out of the team with Sam out there. But I don't think, any coach could have won with either of those guys, Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold, because neither one of them are any good.
No, but the thing is that it's getting the coach right first. To me, getting the coach right first, and then eventually getting the right places and pieces in the right spot. I mean, I see so much improvement with Daniel Jones with Dable in 1 year that I'm starting to think that maybe Daniel Jones could be a good not top level quarterback, but a top half of the NFL type quarterback.
Potentially. I mean, I've liked what I've seen out of him the last few weeks. I like how he has continued to fight. I like how he has figured out how to not turn the ball over to compete. Yeah. He's definitely gotten better of hanging on to the ball. I mean, you look at last week against the Vikings. They lost. But Daniel Jones, 30 of 42 for 334 yards, a touchdown, one interception. And then he ran for 34 yards. I don't think he's the problem there. And I like what I've seen out of him. Am I ready to anoint him as the starter for the next 10 years? I don't know about that. As me and you've discussed many times, I'd bring somebody in there to compete with him. I would have done that this year.
Yeah. Oh, I have no problem with competition. But he's doing without any good wide receivers. So I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing by him, and let's see what Dable has to say. The thing I know about Dable, he's here to win.
Yeah.
And if Daniel Jones can't get it done, he ain't going to be around long.
No, it was funny to me. The second leading receiver on the New York Football Giants last week was Isaiah Hodgins. Mm-hmm. Who was a 6th-round draft pick out of Oregon State. And I'm sitting there watching this and I'm going, wow, the leading receivers for New York today are Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins. And I'm like, you know what? You got to give Daniel Jones some credit when those are the two guys he's got to throw the ball to.
Yeah.
And nothing against those two guys. They're doing a good job, but I'm just saying, the other team that they're playing has Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne and TJ Hawkinson and Adam Thielen, who's obviously been slowed by injuries, but still a lot of talent out there for the Vikings. Meanwhile, we got Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins.
Hey, if they could have just run more time off the clock and not given the Vikings enough time to come downfield, we'd be in overtime, and who knows what happens.
True.
So we'll see. And let's get into that playoff picture here. Me and the surprising Jaguars. Okay, let's go. Okay, we got the Bills and Chiefs and Bengals, pretty much the class of the AFC right now. The Chargers making the playoffs. What do you think about them finally getting to the playoffs?
I got to be honest. Their coach is still Brandon Staley's gotten some flack this year, but I've actually been very impressed with him being able to win with all the injuries that they've suffered on defense. Think about it. Their best pass rusher and maybe their best player on defense is Joey Bosa, and he's been out for weeks. You think about the other guys that have been hurt this year, Derwin James. Their big signing in the offseason was J.C. Jackson. He's barely played at all. They've had Austin Johnson, Forrest Merrill, Christian Covington, Agbiania, Damon Lloyd, Kevin Hall. I mean, they've got a ton of guys on IR, and they've had a bunch of guys. Khalil Mack's been banged up. They've had a ton of injuries on defense, and the fact that he's gotten these guys to perform with what they've had out there, I think has been impressive. And then the fact that he kept the offense rolling, when they were missing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, that to me was impressive. So the other thing is people aren't even talking about, but they haven't had their big-time bookend left tackle, Rashawn Slater, for most of the season. He's been on injured reserve. So I like what I've seen out of the Chargers. And if they can start getting some of these guys back for the playoffs, I think they're a dangerous team.
All right, let's take it over to the NFC. The Eagles, what have we heard about Jalen Hurts? I missed a couple of things on that. What's his updates?
He's still banged up, and they don't expect him to play this week for sure. I think he's already been ruled out, if my memory serves me correct. I believe he's been ruled out, and I think he's questionable. But from what I've heard is he's not going to play this week. And, they're going to roll probably with Gardner Minshew. But the word in the street is he should be able to be back potentially next week.
For the Giants.
Worst case scenario, the first week of the playoffs.
All right. Well, hopefully, for their sake, hopefully they get their bye and they don't have to worry about it. The Vikings, my question about the Vikings, they've won so many one possession games. Is that going to turn against them in the playoffs?
It could. I mean, I like what the Vikings have done this year, but think about, a couple of those games that went south on them. And that kind of concerns me. I mean, other people don't seem as concerned about it, but that game against the Cowboys that they were right in, at halftime, and then they just got, run out of the building in the second half, that worries me. But, they have won a lot of close games all year. It's just the two games they've lost. They got trucked by the Eagles and they got blown out by the Cowboys. And then they, got beat pretty handily by the Lions. And I think that kind of showed their warts, so to speak. So I'm not as high on the Vikings as some other people are, but I definitely think, they're a team to be reckoned with. I think seeding and matchups will determine how far they can go.
Yeah, I think you got to watch these teams over the next 2 weeks and see who's gearing up. Because I remember I go back to the '86 Giants when I think the last 2 weeks of the season when they were really getting ready to go into the playoffs. I think it was the Packers, and if my memory goes right, it was the Steelers, and they beat them both by 30 points.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, they're ready. So I mean, that's one thing I'll be looking out over the next 2 weeks is what teams are really serious these 2 weeks. I know, teams get to that point of, just get to the dance and see it, but you want to be playing your best football. And speaking of that, we got the Cowboys tonight, and there is no reason to think that they shouldn't just pound Tennessee.
They should, but, Dak hasn't looked his best the last few weeks. And then, the Cowboys have got some guys out too. Tony Pollard
out.
is inactive. Leighton Vander Esch is still out. And I'm not 100% sure how much we will see out of their star defensive player in Micah Parsons. I mean, I think he's probably going to play some, but I don't think he's going to be out there a whole lot. And, he's the difference maker on that defense.
Well, I heard there was something he tweeted about his dog dying or something, or is he injured too?
He's injured. Yeah, his dog did die, but that's not funny. I didn't know that. I just didn't know that's where we were going. I mean, I love my dog.
To make sure, I just saw that tweet. I was like, what?
No, I love dogs, and I love his dog, and I love all dogs. You don't want to ever say anything bad about dogs. You'll end up in Leavenworth. But I think he is a little banged up too. It's something about his hand. So I think he is, I think he is going to play, and I think he's active. But I'm not sure how much he'll be out there.
And what about their? The defense without them is totally different. So that's could really affect them. But again, the Titans are. If anything, it'll be like watching a preseason game. The 49ers, who, I was rooting for 49ers a little bit because of Jimmy G, and I don't mind Brock Purdy. Their defense is really good, but everybody's just they're thinking that the 49ers Eagles are a set thing, and I don't know about that 49er offense.
Well, they have won 8 in a row. Their differential is plus 145. They're 7-1 at home. They're 5-0 in the division. They're 9-2 in the conference. I just can't really pick out anything to, complain about with this team. I mean, they've got their third string quarterback out there, but it hasn't seemed to slow them down at all. And they've got the defensive player of the year, in my opinion, Nick Bosa out there, wrecking things. So I like this team at all levels on defense. I like their defensive line. I like their linebackers. I love their secondary. There's a lot to like with this defense. And honestly, I think their defensive coordinator is going to be a head coach next year.
And I mean, the thing about their team that really, have they found their quarterback of the future in Purdy? And forget the Trey Lance thing. Is this somebody they can attach to? Well, we're going to have to see, but is this some guy that you could see? This is their quarterback.
I don't know. I don't know. They've won 8 games in a row. That's a hard thing to ignore, first off. And secondly, it's not like Trey Lance has this long track record of success. What he played 1 game before he got hurt. And then he got hurt last year when he got out there. So, they talked about bringing in Trey Lance because of the lack of availability with Jimmy Garoppolo. And this guy's been hurt in both of his seasons that he's been on the team. So I just don't think you can really count on that guy. Do you leave him on the squad and bring back Purdy and bring back Lance and let him battle it out? Why not? But I certainly think that Brock Purdy's got the upper hand in this, especially if he can continue what he's been doing through the playoffs.
It's so weird because I remember us talking about him going into Iowa State his junior year, with that coach, how they were going to make him, and then they just bottomed out, and he seemed to get lost for 2 years, and then now he's back to the promise we saw from him after his sophomore year at Iowa State. It's weird whatever went on.
Well, I think he learned a lot from that. This is a guy that had a lot of success, his first couple of years at Iowa State. And, he was everybody's pick to
Heisman and beyond.
Put Iowa State on the map. It was just, he was everybody's, quarterback. And then things didn't really go as planned his last 2 years. And, I think he learned a lot from that. But this is a guy who's played a lot of football. I know he hasn't played a ton in the NFL, but this is a guy who started at Iowa State for 4 years.
Yeah.
And, he's played, he's thrown over 2,000 passes in college football. He had over 12,000 yards, 81 touchdowns. I just think he knows what he's doing out there, and he's wise beyond his years.
And the thing I like about it, the fact that he coming from an Iowa State, it wasn't like he was on a team where at halftime he'd be jogging to the bench and taking his pads off. He had to actually play most of those games probably into the fourth quarter, if not overtime or whatever. So like you said, he saw a lot of situations while he was at Iowa State, the Cyclones. We talked about the Buccaneers a little bit. I think they're probably going to make it just because that division sucks. But I don't see much more out of them. What do you see? We talked about it. I don't want to even go back over it. We both had the same feeling about Tom Brady.
The team in general. I mean, it's not even Brady so much as the offense. I mean, even when he does throw a good pass, somebody drops it. I don't see anything on this team right now that I like. Offensively, defensively, special teams. I mean, there's just nothing that I see when I watch them play that I'm like, oh, this is a team that can make a run. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, James Conner was just slicing through them. And I want to go back to that game for a moment. Humor me, if you will.
I will.
The James Conner's been running up the middle of the field nonstop. Okay, 3 plays in a row. He goes for 11. He goes for 6. He goes for 3. So he's got 20 yards, 3 plays in a row. And then on 4th and 2, you pitch it outside to Keontae Ingram, who hasn't even been in the game, and he fumbles it. I mean, that is where that game was lost. That is why the Buccaneers are even in a position to be in the playoffs. It's because of idiotic play calling by the Arizona coach. And that guy should be fired. Why they gave him an extension last year, I have no idea. If he is the coach next year, it's only because they don't want to eat that money. That guy didn't earn his job. He hasn't looked good ever. I think they kind of won in spite of him before. And the coaching in that game, when they had a big lead with Trace McSorley, just goes to show that he has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, that's for sure. There's no to it. And J.J. Watt, who announced his retirement, by the way, we should mention that. But, I mean, he was having an animalistic night that night.
Yeah.
And it was like
well, and then in the second half, it was like in the fourth quarter, it was like the defense went to sleep.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened with this team that was dominating on both sides of the ball? And all of a sudden they just, went away. I really was so confused by that football game. And honestly, I was kind of surprised to hear that J.J. Watt was retiring. I mean, he's had a really good season. I mean, you think about that night in particular, he had 6 tackles. He had 2 tackles for loss, a couple hits on the quarterback. This year alone, he's got 9.5 sacks, a forced fumble. He's kind of resurrected his career this year. I mean, I guess the injuries have probably taken a toll, and it probably is time. But I was kind of surprised by it, just by the fact that he's been very, very productive on a not that great defense.
Well, the other thing is, and not to be a conspiracy theorist about this, but he could be looking at, like we just criticized his coach and the Kyler Murray contract and say, this team is just going to be floundering for a while. I don't want to stay here. Get out, retire, and then who knows? Maybe in mid, he probably keep himself in good shape. And sometime in mid-season next year, somebody might be looking for a guy who can come in and be an impact player. Who's going to make a real run?
That's what I meant. I wasn't sure that he would stay in Arizona, but I thought maybe someone would be like, wow, J.J. Watt, came back, had almost, potentially double-digit sacks this year. Maybe we do, take a look at him and play him, just on specific, passing downs or just on third down, kind of just a player that doesn't play, a full load and just kind of does situational plays.
Yeah. It would work, but who knows? Well, we may work out next year. We'll see what happens. But for now, he is retired. Now, Washington bringing back. They're still on the bubble, and they're bringing back Carson Wentz.
Stupid. I don't understand this. It's not like Carson Wentz was tearing it up or came in and really blew it up. I mean, they're blaming Taylor Heineke for that interception. I mean, Taylor Heineke. Before that interception, was having a pretty good game. He had thrown 2 touchdowns. He completed, almost well over 60% of his passes. I thought he looked fairly good, and I don't think he's really been the reason that they're been losing. I mean, they gave up 37 points to the Niners. I mean, that's why they lost. I don't get this move, and I think it's going to backfire big time for Chico and the Commanders.
All right, we got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to go with the bubble teams. I want you to tell me done or not done. Patriots.
Whew. That's a tough one. I guess I would have said done, except for now they're playing they're playing the Dolphins with Teddy Bridgewater in the cold. So I think they've got a chance. Just kind of depends what happens around them. But I think they win this week versus Miami, and then they're going to play Buffalo the week after, who may rest everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and say in for the Patriots.
Jets, done or in?
Done. Jets are done.
Titans, done?
They're done.
Steelers, I'll tell you one thing. Again, say what you want about Mike Tomlin. The damn guy can coach.
Yeah.
Anybody who saw them in September and midway through to October would have said they'd be done by now, but they're still around. I think they're done, but Mike Tomlin's a hell of a coach.
He's a great coach, and you know what? They're going to play the Ravens this week, probably without Lamar Jackson, and then they got the Browns next week. So you know what? I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the Steelers found a way to sneak in to the playoffs, and they probably don't deserve to be there. But I mean, if they win out and get in, how can you say that?
I'm kind of rooting for them.
I am too.
Seattle Seahawks, have they done or in?
I will say this about the Steelers just last second. Why the hell didn't they start Kenny Pickett from the beginning of the year?
Wow.
I mean, think about it. If he had gotten a little bit of experience at the beginning of the season, while Mitchell Trubisky was blowing games, I think they definitely would be in. I mean, they lost 4 in a row with Mitch Trubisky out there, and I think they should have gone with Kenny Pickett from the beginning and just let him learn on the job. But that's they are still in the playoff hunt. So,
but then I'll argue the other side of that coin, which is you put him in there and he's not quite ready yet, and he gets beat up, and now we're seeing him go through the crisis of confidence that we've seen other guys go through. Whereas now, you took your beating a little bit, like Belichick always says. September is just an extended preseason, so. If you're going to
lose anyway, why not?
You don't want him to be responsible for it. You don't want him to feel, lose confidence. He got to watch Trubisky F it up.
Yeah.
If he saw the tapes of what not to do.
Well, he did learn what not to do, but I definitely don't think he got any help by watching Mitch Trubisky play. It's one thing we talked about before, like Aaron Rodgers, watching Brett Favre, learning from him. Carson Palmer, watching John Kitna, getting to learn in his shadow. That's good stuff. Watching Mitch Trubisky out there embarrass himself, I don't think that helped Kenny Pickett at all.
Oh, come on. Back in your barroom days, when you went to pick up the girl, you sent up the lame guy first so you'd look much, much better, right?
No, I just waited till the end of the night when everybody was blasted, and then I looked real good to whoever was still at the bar. Ask T. Nash. He knows.
Detroit Lions.
That's a tough one. I thought Detroit was playing really well, and then I watched the game on Sunday, or what day was that? Was that Sunday? No, Saturday. Yeah. The game on Saturday against the Panthers, and now I'm kind of concerned. I mean, they just got run over on that defense. They gave up 320 yards on the ground, 7.4 yards per carry. Deontay Foreman went for 165. Hubbard went for 125. I'm going to say no on the Lions.
Okay, yeah, well, they're going to have to work on their defense in the offseason. I think Goff is good enough to keep around.
Yeah.
I like Campbell, and I think their offense is heading in the right direction. They got to do a lot of work on their defense.
Yeah, Goff had a great game. I mean, 25 of 42, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it wasn't his fault they lost.
Packers, please tell me no. It's just one guy in town. He's just a Packer fan. He's got him going all the way to the Super Bowl. Just tell me they're not going to make it, please.
Man, I would like to make you happy, but think about them the last few weeks. I mean, they've looked pretty damn good. They've won 3 in a row, and I honestly don't know, because this week I think is going to determine it. If they can beat the Vikings, I think they're in. But I'm not 100% sure they can do that. So it all comes down to this week, 425, this weekend against the Minnesota Vikings on CBS. We'll have to see what happens there before I can tell you.
All right, and then we got the Carolina Panthers, who I don't think anything of. I think they had their Super Bowl was last week. I think the Buccaneers will probably take care of them this week and put them to rest.
I think so.
The Saints are done. The Raiders are done. We talked about them already.
Yep.
So I didn't make any picks this week.
I didn't either. It's too hard to tell because we don't even know who's playing. We don't know who gives a shit about winning the games. We don't know who doesn't. We don't know. I mean, it's very difficult to pick games when you don't even know who wants to win the games.
Yeah, maybe what we'll do is we'll do it through the playoffs. We'll do it through the playoffs and figure it out from there. We'll take our records into the playoffs. So we'll see there. One thing I want to shout out to tonight, I know you're not a soccer fan, but God rest Pele. What a great ambassador he was for that sport. Passed away from cancer, 82 years old. I remember as a little kid him coming and playing in New York City, playing for a team they called the Cosmos. And he was in his 30s, maybe not the best player, had the best time of his life, but he still could score. And, at one time in his life, him and Muhammad Ali were probably the biggest athletes in the world. So, God rest Pele.
No doubt. And we got to talk a little bit of NBA here at the end. As I told you, my boy Zion came to life the other night. That was Wednesday night. So that would have been last night. He scored the final 14 points in the game for the Pelicans and brought them back from being down against the Timberwolves. They finished up winning 119 to 118. Zion finished with 43 points. He was dominating. They could not stop him. And then we got to talk about the guy from the Mavericks. I mean, whoa. I don't know if you saw that game, but
no.
I've never seen anything like it in my life. Luka Doncic had 60 points, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists. I mean, that's like 3 games for most guys.
That's Will Chamberlain. That's what Will Chamberlain used
actually, that was the last guy to do that. Was Will Chamberlain. So we've got these are the young guys in the NBA that are really still showing that they got the league is in a good place. So kudos to Zion and to Doncic.
Well, one thing while we're just doing that a little bit in the NBA, Trae Young is trying to get himself out of Atlanta.
I don't blame him for that.
No, I don't either. But I mean, here's where the New York Knicks always missed the boat. Why aren't you looking to get him up here?
They should be. That'd be somebody they could really use. A shooting guard to play next to Brunson and help out Julius Randle. I think he would be a big time help for the Knicks, but I doubt that. I don't see them signing him.
I mean, that would be your backcourt for the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, but who do they have to trade for
him? What about Barrett?
If they would do that trade, I would say do it, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sure that the Hawks would take that, but hell, it's worth a phone call.
Yeah, I definitely think, and I hate the fact that the Nets seem to have straightened it out. I wanted to see them crash and burn.
Yeah, me too. But they are 23-12. They're playing pretty decent ball, and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are both on the court and playing pretty well. It's kind of weird to see.
The saddest thing about it is around here for a part of the country that for years prided itself, maybe rightly, maybe wrongly, as being a basketball factory, the place where basketball players want to come play and everything. Man, no one even cares. The Nets are playing well, not even mentioned on radio around here. That's how much they're hated.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty crazy. But I don't know if you saw the story that came out today as well, where the Buckeyes were practicing in the Mercedes Dome, which pretty ridiculous that they have to travel down to Atlanta and play Georgia in the frickin' Georgia Dome or the Mercedes Dome in Georgia, 40 minutes from campus. But then they found a bunch of cameras in the stadium videotaping them as they went through their practice. And, I just, that it doesn't shock me because that's how Kirby rolls. But I do think it's pretty interesting that nothing's really being said about it, when definitely should be.
Well, I'm sure it will be, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's just I can understand, I don't understand it anyway. This is your national championship semifinal. Why doesn't the NCAA have security people in that facility making sure this kind of crap doesn't go on?
You would think, but I guess when it's in Georgia and you've got the Georgia police and the Atlanta Police Department, they probably don't care if Georgia's cheating.
I mean, it's just like I had a discussion with a friend of mine last week, and we were talking about referees, and he's like, the referees are so bad now. I said, it's not really the referees are worse or better than they were. It's just we get more camera angles. We see more instant replays. I said, the fact of the matter is, on every play, there's a penalty in football. Get over it.
Yeah.
Whether it gets called or not, somebody's holding somebody. Somebody's doing something. But the fact of the matter is, like, as I've said it, and I've said it to you many times on this show, I do not understand why they still have part-time referees in a billion-dollar industry. And when you have former players and athletes in better shape trying to keep up with world-class sprinters, and they know the rules, why they don't employ these guys that get cut every year, retire, come out of college and don't play another down. Somebody like you who played at college and, you're still in good shape right after you came out of school. Hire you full-time to be a referee. It's a billion-dollar industry. You give these guys careers.
What are you saying? I was in good shape right after I got out of school. I'm not in good shape now?
You could probably still do it now. I couldn't.
No,
I could be a video referee.
I went on a 15-mile bike ride down at the beach, and I'm still sore. So, yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right, my friend.
Last thing to talk about, the SEC, 1-3 in bowl games so far. Best conference in the world, can't win a bowl game.
Well, it's like any of the balls too. I don't think I think it's unfair when they look at these conferences because there's so many that are top loaded, and that's the ones I pay attention to. I mean, you only the teams that come out of those conferences that are real are the ones that are really playing for it. I mean, I don't know how to say it. I mean, it's so overrated sometimes, the conferences.
Very true.
All right. Happy New Year to you and yours, and I will see you next year.
Sounds good, buddy.
We'll see you next year.
Yes, sir.
Talk to you later.
Keep your chin up.